Hey, welcome back to Midas Letter Live. My guest this segment is Vance White. He's a legend in the mining circles, and he's working with Noble Minerals. He's the CEO of Noble Mineral Exploration. Vance, thanks for coming in today.
James, thank you for having me.
Now, Vance, the big excitement around Noble, as I understand it, is the potential for this to be an analog to Kidd Creek Mine. What was the significance of Kidd Creek Mine?
Well, the Kidd Creek Mine has been one that was found back in the early 60s. It's been in production for over 50 years. It's produced 150 million tons of very high-grade base metals, and certainly a world-class resource. And we know with these type of VMS deposit, there's the potential for satellite deposits. Satellite deposit could be anywhere from 30 to 50 million tons. That being the case, would have a very significant in-situ value.
Okay, so how is it that with such great potential, this project has not been drilled extensively or explored extensively in the past?
Well, it was in the hands of Abitibi Pulp and Paper, which became Abibo, which is now Resolute. And they were principally held for their forestry and timber rights. But they had some early work carried out by Inco and Falconbridge and McIntyre Porcupine, but this goes back to the early 60s and 70s. And yes, they had carried out exploration programs. They had done some airborne over the project at that time. They had done some drilling. And what latched us onto the project was a drill hole intersection of about 1,325 feet of 0.3 nickel that was drilled up in Kingsmill Township. At the time it was drilled in the 1960s, would not have had any kind of economic significance. But in today's environment, given the size of the potential tonnage that we're dealing with, it may very well have. And at the same time, the drilling that we carried out in 2012 identified with the low-grade nickel cobalt mineralization as well, which in today's environment bears a whole different analysis.
Right, cobalt being, what's it, gone up by like 300%?
Well, right now it's trading at about 95,000 a metric ton US.
Right, okay. And that's a result of the demand for batteries?
For batteries for electric vehicles that are now the wayward of all of the major producers, whether it be from China or Japan or North America.
Great. What's the exploration budget and program look like going out in the next 12 months?
Well, what we've done is we've gone to a business model where we're inviting joint venture partners, where we, Noble, will be the project generator as a result of all the work that we've carried out in terms of airborne geophysics, gravity analysis, compilation of all historic and current data, that we've isolated various townships for joint venture opportunities with other juniors, with the business model being such that they put up very large share and or warrant positions. They spend the funds in order to earn up to a 75% interest, at $2 million over a 24 to 36 month time frame. Thereby, if we can pull together, we've got 3 signed up right now, if we can pull together another 2 or 3 such that there are 6 projects going on over the course of the next 24 to 36 months, there'd be something in the order of $10 to $15 million expenditures on the ground, which at this point in time has been underexplored to a very large extent, as can be seen by one of the pages in our presentation on the website.
Right, so these joint venture partners are participating in the project as opposed to in the shares of the company?
That's right.
Oh, okay.
So they earn directly into the project, into certain blocks of ground within each of the townships. And we would get the ride there for any repricing of their shares should they find anything, and a liquidity opportunity for Noble on the one hand, but at the same time retain a direct interest by virtue of a joint venture participation down the road.
Interesting. So this is kind of a new model. I mean, it's like the large company model offered to the individual investor.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't lend itself to that if it weren't for the size of the project area, which is about 70,000 hectares or about 150,000 acres.
Wow.
And consequently, as a result of it having been underexplored, we feel there's an opportunity, given its proximity to the Kidd mine. It's about the southernmost boundary is about 3 kilometers north of the Kidd mine, that any kind of satellite VMS deposit would have a huge impact, not only on the area, but on the companies that would be involved.
Interesting. And so it's primarily the fact that it was a timber company that was, or a paper company that held the land for timber purposes or pulp purposes.
That's right.
And so how did it manage to fall to Noble to mine it or to explore it?
Well, my VP of Exploration, Randy Singh, we had an interest in the Ring of Fire. And I felt that at that time, with the lack of infrastructure and the cost of exploration in that particular region, it may be to our interest to exit that project, which we did. And we sold our interest to McDonald at the time. And for Randy to go out and see if there wasn't an area that had better infrastructure, closer proximity to all of the services that would be required with lower costs of exploration. And he was able to touch base with the ministry and identify that this project didn't have any public filings on it by virtue of it having been held by a private landowner. However, when Vale came in and took over Inco, there was a certain amount of friction that resulted between the various management teams, and a number of reports surfaced at the ministry that had not, at the time when Randy called them, been cataloged. And Randy asked if he could come up and review them. He called me and he said, listen, there's a 1,300-foot intersection of 0.3 nickel. I said, we better go get this thing. I called Abitibi at the time, and they were going through their bankruptcy issues, and indicated that there had been some interest expressed on the what they refer to as the Smooth Rock Falls freehold. We indicated that we would be interested as well. We went down, we met with them after they had come out of their CCRA and put together a transaction which was partially financed by Franco-Nevada. And the history is now there. Then, of course, the junior market, the resource market, and financial capital markets for the junior resource sector fell out of bed and had been for 4 or 5 years until such time as we were able to get around and get this thing back up and into the business model that we've now determined is the way that we're going to be able to explore it properly.
Interesting. So is there going to be drilling on some of the hotter targets this year?
I expect so. I expect in the very near term. In fact, in Carnegie and Crawford Townships, I would expect some very near-term drilling. Okay. And we know that from historic results that were drilled off by Inco a number of, well, back in the early 60s, that there are some very, very, very strong targets to go after.
Okay, that's great. That's a great introduction. We're going to leave it there for now, Vance, and we'll come back to you in a quarter's time and we'll see how the drilling is panning out. But thanks very much for coming in.
Let's do that.
You bet.
Pleased to have been here. Thank you very much, James.